Alright, Hero Hawks here. I'm going to make a short video. I don't know if it's going to be that short, but see. No script, though I was trying to write one, but I already have another script I want to write or work on later. Work on soon. Nice scathing, dressing down of the woke AAA life service industry, game industry there. I'll get to that as soon as I can. But right now I want to talk about something else that's kind of important to talk about. Over the past few days, I've been hearing people saying a lot of stuff about Charlie Kirk, and I want to talk about that stuff. All right. I will say, as a I will say at first, I didn't really, I definitely did not know the guy personally at all. I've seen lots of clips of him, and will continue to see lots of clips of him because he has some great stuff to say. Because he is a Christian, he was a Christian minister. He was ministering the gospel of Christ to people, to the lost, and knew all kinds of cool stuff there. Reaching people for Christ. It was great, but of course there was controversy because of that. People were saying, because basically, I think I told my brother once a little while ago. I think that people are calling him transphobic and homophobic because he's Christian, and that is true, technically speaking. Our religion forbids the transgender homosexual lifestyles. So, but here's the issue. All kinds of rumors are most likely spread about him, calling him racist, sexist, and all this other stuff as well. And the title of this video is probably going to be, was Charlie Kirk racist, sexist, fascist, bigoted, all this other stuff, everyist, every phobe, like they usually do. Was he? Let's go through down the line. Basically, was Charlie Kirk racist? No, he was not. Now, I won't say he wasn't inflammatory, to different communities of people, especially the black community. Because I saw a clip, might have been a clip that someone was trying to use to show off how bad Charlie Kirk was, and mean he was, and racist he was. But here's the issue. This clip was him debating with some young black dudes, and one of the things he said was, he says, I can't say anything about the black community because I'm white. Okay, well, so I can't say that, I can't ask why black Americans account for about 20 or 30% of the population, but they're responsible for over 50% of the crime. I can't ask about that. I was just like, ooh, the whole guy's like, stuff like that. So it's just like, saying stuff like that. And also talk about how when he sees a black, not seen to say a black woman, but he saw those black women in political office, wondering if they have the brain power to be there, or it was because of affirmative action or something like that, woke DEI, they would call it now. Affirmative action type stuff, what they put there, and some people were like, "That's racist," because I say it's racist. I don't know. Let's see, figure this out here. Imagine you, say it's the SATs. You're trying to get a good grade in the SATs. You work hard, you study, get everything good, and you pass. You basically pass, and you get a good accomplishment. You got that test done. It's all good. Then you manage someone basically who didn't work hard, who didn't study, who didn't do anything. But they're a certain race, and they pass the SATs as well. But then it's like, you see that they're basically hanging out with someone else, with a teacher or something. It's like, oh yeah, here's your version of the SATs. It's a different version. It's easier, or here's their cheat sheet for the SATs or whatever. That'd be unfair. That'd be effed up. That's what affirmative action, all the other programs are, where it's just like, oh yeah, and also that's inherently racist. Those things are inherently racist because it's basically like, these poor, unfortunate souls from this minority, clearly can't do things by themselves. Let's help them, says the government. Let's help them. Let's give them, a boost, And I'm not talking food stamps or whatever, money or food stamps or none of that. That's a different story. I'm talking, get you a job, get you a job in a field that you may not be qualified for. It's like, well, what? Just like shove you in there for diversity points, That stuff's after all, and racist, definitely racist. And it's just like, yeah, you sure you want someone in that job who's got there because that basically checks a box off? It's like, do we have a black person? Yep, there we go. Yep, next, we don't want to do that. That's not a good idea. So yeah, Charlie Kirk was saying stuff like that. It was definitely controversial, but it was definitely true. I'm like, what the heck, Yeah, it's definitely not racist. Talking about race is weird. Can be considered racist, especially if it's a certain race. Charlie Kirk was white, so say I'm talking about black people, kind of makes him racist in certain ways. Can make him racist very easily, which is racist, which is a racist thought. Which race? Yeah. Let's see here. Then is Charlie Kirk sexist? I don't believe I don't think he was. The issue is, as a Christian in a traditional Christian family, he believes that the man is the head of the household and the main breadwinner. He believed that, and yeah, basically, there is. I have noticed there is a lot of hatred, anger and hatred for females nowadays over the stereotype of the 1950s housewife, the stay-at-home mom, 1950s housewife. Because I've seen a lot of this stuff, and I gotta do a parody. There's like a parody of a movie I want to make called Spermageddon, and that parody involves what happens if let's say in the movie you have these two young people, boy to girl, who decide, fresh out of high school, and they decide to hang out together, and then they end up having sex, and then of course she's in danger of getting pregnant because the contraception didn't work. So you see all the sperm going in, basically swimming around inside her, and you see going toward the egg, and there's this like Iron Man sperm, an Iron Man suit, and he's shooting at other sperm. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm the best sperm ever. I was thinking to myself, like a comic about what happened if the boy sperm and the girl sperm that were the main characters were able to get past that guy, and fertilize that egg, what would happen? What would go on? And because it was like right after that, the egg was fertilized, so that girl got pregnant. Very early stage of pregnancy, she was given a morning after pill by her doctor, gynecologist or whatever, because it's like, yeah, you're just out of high school, you got a career ahead of you, you can't have a kid now and stuff like that, she's like, okay, took the pill, basically took the pill. So I'm just like, okay, that's effed up. But I was thinking, what would happen if the opposite happened? What if she was like at the place, the gynecologist's office, and it's like, okay, you're pregnant, it's you can't be having a kid now, it's you gotta go get your career, your college on, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just gonna do a prescription for Plan B, morning after pill, whatever. She'd be like, no, I'm okay, I'm good. He's like, what? But you're just out of high school. You are trying to go to college? She's like, no. Well, technically speaking, you can go to college, anytime. Right now, I'm not just out of high school. I need to build up capital. I need to get a job. I need to do other things, And now we got this baby coming. Got to take care of this baby. We go to college later. He's like, but the doctor would be like, what about your career? What about stuff? He's like, well, we can do that later. Me and him. He's like, is this dude forcing you to stay at home, take care of the kids? That's what's going on here. It's like no, we discussed it. We decided we're going to do it this way. Yes, we don't want Charlie Kirk. But there's a lot of anger, a lot of hatred of the 1950s stereotype of the stay-at-home mom who, basically has when the man in the house comes home, and the woman has the slippers and the pipe in her hand, and she rubs his feet and prepares dinner and does all the work while he laces around, smoking that pipe and whatnot. And it's like, basically, woke feminist, militant feminism. Feminist culture is basically like, yeah, that's slavery. That's slavery right there. That's what it is. I don't know about that. No, it can be. It can be. But if girls are like, yeah, I want to do this, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with? I thought you were pro-choice. So it's like, yeah. So to certain people's eyes, because homegirl has kids with a man who's Christian and saying stuff that ticks people off. She seems, he seems, she seems like a slave to them, and he seems like the slave, the man of the house type character, but you know, but from what I've seen of everybody, I think they've worked on it. They decided on that stuff. She was probably raised traditional. He was probably raised traditional. So that's what they're okay with. So I do not believe that guy was sexist. Now there's another issue too with that. This dude and other Christians like him, like me, acknowledge the fact that there are differences between men and women, males and females. And we'll get to some of those differences in a little bit. But I'm talking, differences physically, between males and females. Differences, stuff like that. And according to the Bible, different males and females have different roles, And they can say that's sexist because someone actually called the Bible sexist when they were debating with me. It's just like, yeah, that's another, and that's the issue too. I think woke DEI pushers, these militant feminists, would hate, seeing certain traditional cultures. If you think about it, if they were to go to a traditionally Islamic country, and you were able to see, they were seeing like stuff like everybody all in the traditional outfits. You'd be like, where's the women all covered up but the man isn't? He's like, well, that's the way it is. That's tradition. Why are the women and the men not eating together? That's tradition. Why is the woman and the man have to go different sides of the mosque during service? Basically, during the service, like that's tradition. It's like this place is sexist. That's what they would say. It's like, that's tradition, man. Sorry. It's just how it is. I thought you guys were diverse. All for diversity. What's going on here? Stuff like that. That's basically what's going on with that. I'm pretty sure because it's like that's tradition. Sorry, the way it is. So no, I do not believe that Charlie Kirk was sexist, but he was traditional. And that brings us to Christian tradition here. Was Charlie Kirk a homophobe? Yes, I'm pretty sure he was. I am too. Here's how this crap goes. According to the Bible, homosexuality is forbidden. Okay, forbidden. And everybody say, well, that might have been mistranslated. Instead of saying man should not lie with another man, maybe they meant man should not lie with a boy. I'm like, yeah, that's still a man, still a male, still gay. Jerk. And then in other places it says, a lot called homosexual acts for wicked things in Sodom and Gomorrah. In Deuteronomy, definitely, forbidden. Things are forbidden there. In Leviticus, Deuteronomy, in other places, Paul in the New Testament was saying stuff like, in Romans was saying stuff about how, basically there's been incidences where women have turned from the natural use of men, burned with lust with each other. Women turned from the natural use of men, women to burn with lust for each other and stuff like that. So it's like there's gay stuff, definitely. There's like men committed, things that were unseemly with other men, gay, and in time received the penalty for their disease. So you don't want to mess with that stuff. Christianity says do not mess with that. Feel those feelings, say no, resist them, stay away from those. Second is was Charlie Kirk transphobic? Yes. Oh, very much so. So am I. As you can tell. Here's the issue. In the Bible, of course, it says that a man should not wear women's clothing, a woman should not wear man's clothing, for the Lord your God detests someone who does this. Okay? And I connect the verses. Why does he detest people who do this? Okay? Because lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. They do truly yours delight. That's in Proverbs. Okay? So no. In other places, lying is condemned. Ten Commandments, thou shalt not lie. False weights, false measures, the Lord detests the most. That's how it goes. He does not like lying because lying, I'm realizing, is basically a way for fear to come in. You see how people freak out when they're caught in lies, because lying is a good way for fear to come in. That's why it's good not to lie, just to tell the truth. Yes, you can fear what happens when the truth, when people find out the truth, but it's better to just tell it, You don't have to worry about being seen as a liar, Person with testicles, when he says he is a woman, he is lying. Person with ovaries, female, says she is a man, she is lying, And then that's the issue. I may have said this before, I'll say it again. I made this demonstration before, I'll say it again. The devil loves to try to sneak in as best he can. So it makes it be something like this. Wow, those people are treating you pretty bad. Well, from what I've seen, the devil might whisper, men to the female, person with ovaries, men are treated better than women. Maybe you should pretend you're not like other women. You should pretend to be, lie and say you're a man. Look and try to disguise yourself as a man. It's a little lie. Just no big deal. Cut your hair short, hide your breasts and curves. No big deal, no problem. Of course, you'll have to, be careful. Make sure no one finds out. Don't find out with it. Maybe you should get your some hormones in. That'll get you a beard. Make you look more like a man. Get your voice deeper. Yeah. Stop your period. Yeah. And eventually get your breasts removed. Get yourself, get your ears removed, stuff like that, get that stuff all done, good, that'll help out, figure that stuff out, so you can use your male pronouns, get your body mutilated, all that stuff, that'll work. The dude's same thing, similar thing, it seems like girls be treated better than men, than boys are. You can lie as here as a girl, you don't act like other dudes, it's a problem. Color your hair long, go get fake breasts, wear dresses, hide your penis, hide junk, it'll work, huh? Of course, to make that work, you're gonna have to basically get hormones and stuff in, shave, make sure you look a certain way so that it's harder to figure out. Get your body, your body full of female hormones. So you look more feminine, talk more like the females. And eventually get your body, get your penis testicles, mutilated, so steroid, basically mutilated, removed, reshaped to look like a vulva. So it's people gonna find out the truth. Just a little lie, just a little tiny lie, just say a little bit. Yeah, and the tiny lie can ruin lives. Those tiny lies can ruin lives. To try to keep them going, and it's just like no, fear is a bad thing. It's good to get away from fear. Dysphoria is fear. Get away from that stuff. You'll feel it. That's the issue. You'll feel it. And then we'll try to use that on you. Feel it stuff. But then it's like, instead of being like, oh no, I have to, the only way to deal with this dysphoria fear is to lie. No, it's not. It's to tell the truth. It's to educate dysphoria. Dysphoria will say things like, "Oh no, you're on your period. They'll know. They could, you're bleeding from your vulva." I'm like, yeah, that you educate them. Dysphoria. That's my period. No, dysphoria. It's normal things happen to girls my age. See the lining of my ears coming out because the egg coming out because that's just how it is. Every month that's how it works. That's normal stuff for females. Oh no, your penis. You saw a pretty girl. Your penis did this. He's like, well, that's what happened for you. Just for you. That's going to happen. That's actually really good. I mean, there's good blood flow there. When I get with that girl, yeah, I want that stuff. It's gonna be awesome. Look at that real nice for you. That's the issue. Got to learn to educate this for you. Learn to fight against fear with truth instead of trying to lie your way through life. That's why I believe. That stuff is just, it's a bad thing. Transgender lifestyle is a bad idea, bad thing, because it brings in more fear. Because it's like you already have fear of what other people think of you, and then you add to that fear of, hey, what if I disguise myself to look exactly like what I think they like? It's like, well, what if the disguise fails? What if the disguise fails? What if now it's like, oh no, they'll know. They'll know everything. Oh no, it's just like you're adding fear to fear, and you made more fear, and now you're ticked off and angry because people are figuring things out and treating you the way you don't want to be treated. But here's the issue: people are going to treat you the way you don't want to be treated. People are going to say things that you will not like. It's going to happen. You got to learn to get used to it. Learn to live with it. Okay, that's the issue. The reason why Charlie Kirk was killed was because someone has not learned to live with it. So they decided, they planned, and executed that plan and murdered an innocent man because he said things that hurt their feelings. It's just like, some people always say, words are violence. No, they're not. Words can cause violence, But that's the issue. Think of Marty McFly from Back to the Future. Someone called him, kept on calling him chicken. You know, and that's the issue. That's a hurtful word to hit for him. You know, but eventually he realized if I say nobody calls me chicken and I want to get back at that dude for that, you know, every time I've done that, I got in trouble. You know, bad things happen to me. And those around me because I've done that. So no, because it's like what was that? Marty was talking to his uh what's the name? One of his relatives from the old West days. He's like, yeah, dude's like talking to him, and he's like, it's like, you have a, he's like, man, you know, his wife's like, man, you know, the guy's wife's like, man, you remind me of poor Martin. He's like, what? Who's Martin? He's like, yeah, my brother. He's like, you have a brother named Martin McFly? He's like, I had a brother. It's like, what do you mean had a brother? He's like, well, Martin used to let people from into fighting. You know, that's how he ended up with a bowie knife in his belly at a saloon in Silver City. You know, it's like, so it's just like, basically, words can hurt feelings, but you can choose how to act when you feel that. There are people who debated Charlie Kirk and other people, and they've lost, basically. You know, they basically had nothing left they could say. Instead of standing there and being angry, instead of attacking those people that they were debating with, they walked away. You know, they were like, "Yeah, get me out of this situation. No, this situation is too volatile. I'm out of here." That's the right call. That's the right call. That's the best thing to do. You know, take some time and think, and you know, make good decisions. You know, that's the issue. Charlie Kirk was a controversial figure. He said some things that ticked people off, but because of how they just took it at and what they decided to do with that, that's the problem. That's how that works. They chose those actions. Words are not violence. Words can cause violence if a person who hears them reacts the wrong way. But words are not violence, because that's what they're trying to do now. These people are trying to equate murder, literal murder, with hurtful words, and that's wrong. And then because they're saying, well, it was like murder, you know, so it's justified. Take that, and they go to the point of like, take that, you loser. Yeah, kill the others. I'm like, what? Kill the others. You know, get his family. I'm like, what? Do you hear yourself? What kind of weird stuff are you saying? You know, someone actually said, kill them all. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. And then things got interesting. They said stuff started happening where it's like this. You know, people started posting, those videos went viral. People started posting those videos, showing them to people's bosses and stuff. You know, people's bosses and stuff, and they're just like, ugh. You see videos come out like that, like, what? I've been fired. Why? I didn't do anything. For Charlie Kirk. You know, there's some parodies going on. You know, that I didn't know. Certain things that I thought were parodies, I didn't know were parodies at first, but are some parodies. There's one girl with his mask on, you know, with a black mask on. That might be parody. She's saying some stuff that sounds just like some other people saying some stuff. That they got fired. But there's another guy who's freaking out and crying. Black dude, light-skinned black dude. That might be a parody. But yeah, still, there are other people who are like absolutely serious. And absolutely, and some people are crying, you know, just tearing, you know, crying, breaking down, having a hard time, because they got fired from their jobs because of what they said. And one girl actually said this was a grandma with orange and pink, not orange and pink, orange and red hair, who was saying stuff about saying like, it's not it's like, what's wrong with hate, you know, basically celebrating when a bad person is killed. She's from Britain. She's like, what's wrong with a bad person celebrating? The person was killed. So bad things happen to a bad person. You know, he was a bad person. Charlie Kirk was a bad person. You know, he did bad things. You know, he said bad things. You know. So like that. And then later she's like, okay, I seem to have been, in another video, she's like, I've been, people are harassing me, you know, and all kinds of stuff. I decided to tell, you know, the moderators, the authorities, you know, about this. And it turns out I've been reported to the authorities too. But why? They were just words. I was just saying words. You know, just like, Do you get it? Do you understand what's going on here? Do you understand the irony? No, she didn't. She's like, I was just saying words. That's all. Just words. Did I hurt your feelings? Did I hurt your feelings? You decide to bring it into the real world? Decide to bring things into the real world and harass me? Yeah, because I hurt your feelings? Like, yeah, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate. Yeah, well, have fun being alive after saying words. Yeah. Just like, you don't get it, do you? You don't get what's going on here, do you? So it's like, oh my gosh. The irony of it is just so crazy. And it's just like, maybe someday, help them, Lord. Maybe someday they'll get it. Maybe someday they'll understand. When you have freedom of speech, it can cause pain. It can cause hurt feelings, but just the way it is. And also, freedom of speech, I'm hearing this also too. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences. But here's the issue. Some people might say, so that's why Charlie Kirk got killed, right? No. It's not equivalent. It's not equivalent. No. You tried to silence someone. Killer tried to silence someone for what he was saying. Now, imagine, guys, again, I don't know if I said this on film, but I might say this. I say it now. Imagine if you were walking on down the street, and some loser attacked you with like a knife, or something, and if you fought with him, and in the ensuing chaos, that dude died, whatever, for whatever reason, he died, And basically, here's the issue. Then that means you were fighting for your life. Someone physically attacked you. And you were fighting for your life, and in the ensuing chaos, that person died. That's horrible, but it's not the same thing as what happened here with Charlie Kirk. With Charlie Kirk, he was talking, using his right to free speech. Some loser decided that he wanted to silence Charlie Kirk. He didn't like what he was saying, and so he killed him. But here's the issue: truth never needs to silence. It needs people to be silent, who say things different to be silent. The truth never needs that. Lies do, because lies cover up truth, or used to cover up truth. Truth does not need people to be silenced for it to exist. That's not how that works. Charlie Kirk saying trans women are not real women was true. And someone took offense at that because of bad teaching, bad ideas. No, the fight continues on. But the fight is in here. We don't want it to escalate to this unless we have no choice. The fight is ideas. It's about ideas. Right. Charlie Kirk was not. The issue is Charlie Kirk spoke the truth. He did get inflammatory, but he spoke the truth. He wasn't sensational like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was not sensational. Was sensational. Okay, there was a school shooting. I'm almost done, but here's the deal. There was a school shooting. All right, a FTM transgender person. A girl wants to be a boy. Shot up that school because obviously she had history there. It was a Christian school. She had history at that place. So she decided to come in there with a gun and shoot up the place. He killed some children, men, women, and children in that place, and eventually was killed by cops, by police, because of course she was trying to shoot at him. She refused to surrender, so she got killed. So I'm like, yeah, sucks. You shot at people and would not surrender. So yeah, he's dead. So that's horrible. But here's the issue. Tucker Carlson said it's a war between transgender people and Christians. I'm like, no, it's not. And some weird things are made up. I don't know if he made them or someone else made them, but whatever. Trans Day of Vengeance? I thought it was Trans Day of Visibility. What? Weird things started happening there with Tucker Carlson saying that stuff. And he was eventually let go. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay with it. Because that's sensationalist. Charlie Kirk spoke the truth. And you didn't push it. And, it was like, what was this? White Christmas. One girl was saying, yeah, the truth needs a little, it's like, how facts need a little push, truth needs a little plus, right? It's like, it's like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Yeah, that makes it a lie. It can make it a lie then, So, Charlie Kirk never pushed him plus. He used facts. So that's how it is. You can say whatever you want to say about him, but yeah, I'm sorry. He told the truth. So, that's the way it is. We must all strive to be like Charlie Kirk, tell the truth. So how it is. See you guys next time. Check me out on YouTube, DeviantArt. This thing went for way longer than I thought it was going to go. So unfortunately, I should have wrote it down as a script. Whatever, I have 30 minutes now. I really want to work with this other thing. So I'll see you guys next time.